Welcome to Foundations, Overview and Practical Uses of Logos' 39 Interactive Resources, Part 1. And if you're wanting to catch this webinar again, you can check out LearnLogos.com/replay. That'll be available starting tomorrow and then available for the next 5 days. It's a stream only, no download option. But if you like this webinar and you're so excited about it, you can get it tonight ordered on discount for $6. After tomorrow when I release it, it will be the price will be raised to $7.99. And so that's just my way of saying thanks for coming out tonight to see it live. We want to discount this for you. So let's get started. And I'm going to go ahead and next slide. So the topic is reviewing the interactive. So let's jump into Logos right now and look at those. So here's the personal book, just so you know. And what we've done here in the personal book is we've listed out all the collections, all the interactive resources, and then any specialized searches that you can use and so forth. But I would like to take a moment just to say, why is this important? These tools that are in the interactive category, they're a great way to save time, and they bring together information that is often difficult to find in of itself. And that's why they're so helpful. Some are more helpful than others, but all of them are very useful. So what we want to do right out of the gate is create a collection of all these, because some of them are searchable and you want to be able to do that at times. So let's create a collection together. So we're going to click on Tools on the main menu. And then in the search box, you're going to type in the word Collect. Then below in the menu, you'll see Collections under Library. Go ahead and click Collections. Now, the first thing, I'm going to go ahead and open up mine since I already have it done, just so you can see that, and it won't be duplicated. And here we go. So I put type, and then I did a space, interactive, and I put LearnLogos.com. By the way, you can download this by going to Documents. You go to Public, just type in interactive. And you'll see type interactive, LearnLogos.com. Click that once, click add to your docs, and you'll see a blue bar flash and disappear. That means it's downloaded it. And then you can go then and click open, put in type interactive, you can get it. But if you want to create it right now on the fly, I'll go ahead and put this in the chat box so you got it real easy. So here is the rule name. And then the rule is very simple, type interactive, no spaces. And depending on your version of Logos, you should see 39 books. And that represents all the interactive resources available in the Logos system at this point in time. So take advantage of that. Once you've created the rule and the name, click New, and now it's saved. Now the advantage of this is we can search this later, and we'll do that in just a minute. So let's now begin to work through all these. How do we find these in our library? Well, we go to the library icon and click it once. And then just simply type in the search box the word type and the word interactive. And immediately you'll see all 39 in there. So what I'm going to do to make this a little bit easier is I'm going to left click on the library icon. I'm going to drag that into my layout space there at the left. And then I'm going to go back into the search box and retype type and I can just type in enter. You don't even need to type the full word interactive. So now we've got the complete list of 39 here. Now right now it's being sorted alphabetically, and that's the easiest way to do this. So what we're going to do tonight is walk through each one of these, and as I open them, feel free to ask questions along the way. So let's begin with ancient inscriptions. Now, what's nice about the ancient inscriptions is these are significant discoveries that confirm things in the Bible. Case in point, let's go to Hezekiah's seal. So I'm going to click on it. Notice that Logos gives you a location, and a lot of times these tools are better seen and used if you right-click on it and choose Open in a floating window. So I'm going to right-click on the tab and choose Open in a floating window. Now, in my situation, it went onto the other monitor. So let me bring it back and maximize it. So this right away tells us a location and then what it's all about. And if we click off the image, we can see Jerusalem is where this was found. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Hezekiah's seal. And what do we learn from this? So we'll click on it. So this is a remaining fragment of a bulla, that is a clay impression or of a seal, found by archaeologists which reads, belonging to Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, the king of Judah. Now, what's so wonderful about such a description is this confirms that there is a Hezekiah in the Bible, and that's what makes this a wonderful little resource. Notice the link to Wikipedia. We can click on that, and now we can learn more about what a bulla is, and then go from there. Now, notice that I don't think this one actually mentions Hezekiah, so this is focusing just on what a bulla seal is. But then if we wanted to look for it, we could certainly type in Hezekiah's seal. And there we go. Search for pages containing Hezekiah's seal. And we could scroll down and find them if there's any in here. Pretty awesome. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that down and return back to Logos. So this is really wonderful. Now I'm going to click the X and close this down. But by the way, notice that if you right-click on it, you can't print and export. And if you click the three dots, you can't print and export. So you will need a screen capture utility if you want to grab this information. But notice we've got quite a few here. These are really important ones to get to know. And so I definitely recommend taking the time to walk through these and see why they matter. Pontius Pilate's inscription. And this is found in Caesarea, confirming Pontius Pilate's historical existence. It describes him as the prefect of Judea. Pretty awesome. All right, so let's close this down now. Let me show you how this type of resource is actually searchable. So I'm going to click on the search icon here, and I'm going to type in Hezekiah. Pretty straightforward. And then we got to choose our collection. So I'm going to click books next, so search books, and then we'll click the drop-down menu at the far left, and I'm going to type in the word interactive just to get it going. We'll see under the collection section, type :interactive. We'll click on that. And then we'll go ahead and type in Hezekiah and press enter. Now, this is fascinating because we have ancient inscriptions 3 times, inscription from Hezekiah's tunnel. Then we have ancient inscriptions 2 times, Hezekiah's seal. We have Sennacherib's prism as well. And so each one of these make mention of Hezekiah. So if we click on it, our book will open up and we can go right there. So this is really useful for different things. Now, I recommend clicking on the actual heading so that we get the right object. That's really important. And so we'll go back here. So we'll click on Hezekiah's seal. And it should, in theory, bring us there. But as you can see, it's not quite doing that for us. So we'll try clicking the other one. Yeah, so there might be a little limitation in Logos. Oh, there it goes. We just couldn't see it. And then now we can click the other one and so forth. So a wonderful way to search these resources. Looks like Logos is being a little wonky here. So a little bit of a limitation, but nevertheless, still pretty handy. So now that you know it's there, I would just click on the resource button right here, that double chevron to open it up. And then you can navigate really quickly to Hezekiah's tunnel. That's probably the best way to do it since this is not properly linked in Logos. All right, so some of the items are searchable. That's why we include it. Let's go ahead and click X to close that. The next one is the biblical sites before and after. This is pretty neat. And what I've got here, let me click again, the table of contents. So you got to watch for that double chevron. It can sometimes hide and you can miss it. And then you'll miss the opportunity to see what other data is there. So I click on that. Now notice I have to click back because right now I'm in Ephesus Theater. But here we have quite a few items. We have the Ephesus Theater, Erastus inscription. We can scroll down and see all the different ones that are here. This is really wonderful because it helps us see the current remains in our present day and what it may have looked like during their time. Now, they are cartoon sketches, but they really do a good job of helping us see, what these things look like. So let's go back up here. Let's take the Temple of Artemis. Pretty awesome temple. And we can close the chevron. It makes the window a little bit bigger. And so now we can move and see what this looks like. Now, the details are listed here on the overview. I'm sorry, the overview takes you to the table of contents, but if we scroll down again and click the Temple of Artemis, and we click the double chevron, we can get some details. At the time of the Apostle Paul, the city of Ephesus was home to the temple of the goddess Artemis. Today, very little remains of this great temple. Once it was the 7 wonders of the ancient world and a major destination for pilgrims and tourists at 450 feet in length and 225 feet in width. The roof was supported by more than 120 columns. Pretty cool. And so that's pretty helpful. And so now you can see what it could have looked like, and that's what it looks like today. Nothing there. Now, again, Logos doesn't allow you to export this. You can't right-click and do it, so you will need a screen capture tool to share this. So I like to do the before and after images, and that can be very useful for PowerPoints and so forth. Let's next go to the Bible Explorer, the Bible Books Explorer. And this is a little different. There's quite a few items in here. I'm going to right-click and maximize this in a floating window. And again, we want to kind of reset this. So let's click All, and then we'll click the double chevron. Now, this is several pieces of information. You'll see at the top right, we are presently in the books view, and we're looking at the books in biblical or canonical order. So we can change the order to rank, to Hebrew, words, chapters, verses, and that'll change the order of these. We also have a little grid here. So if a book is narrative, it's going to be blue. If it's procedural law, it'll be green. If it's behavioral, it'll be orange, kind of. It's kind of a color here, golden color. And then if it's expository, these aren't really the best labels, but they're sufficient for now. And so it can help you see that, yeah, most of Genesis is a narrative. Notice when I float my mouse over these, I get the details. 50 chapters, 1533 verses, 32,161 words. 91% of it is narrative. So this gives you some quick stats. Now, if we choose ranked, all right, we've got Romans, and this is ranked on 16 chapters, 430 verses, 7,000 words, expository. And then the next one is 150 chapters and so forth. We have Hebrew. So Hebrew books first, New Testament books second. Then we have words. Jeremiah has the most words, 33,000. Genesis follows with Ezekiel third. Then we do the most chapters. Psalms has the most chapters. And then here are the most verses. Psalms wins that one. So again, just very simple statistics to look at. By the way, if you click on the book, you get a quick summary of the book. This is pretty fascinating because you now got key verse, key people, key places, key things, key events, also compositions of dates based on what different groups say. So the Bible Knowledge Commentary says the events of this book take place between 1500 and 1401 BC. The stats section walks you through all the basic key chapter, stats, so forth, lemmas, etc. And if you click on the concordance tool, you now can actually run a search, and then you can decide what you want in there. So a nice little link there is pretty handy. Let's return to that resource real quick. All right, so let's click the X to close that down. Now, books are pretty straightforward, but notice you can change what you want to see. So if we just want to focus on New Testament, we'll go over here to the left, and now we can just focus on New Testament books. I do highly recommend using this menu to the left because it can be a lot of information. If we wanted to focus just, let's say, on Paul, we can go to kind and, well, actually subkind and click Pauline, and now we can see all his books ranked in these different ways. So very helpful. Let's notice that you can also search on genre, corpus, authors, recipients, the language, the biblical era, etc. Now, timeline is the next one. This is pretty handy because you can quickly see the events and when it was taking place. So right away, we have the Bible Knowledge Commentary, conservative resource. And so it's going to tell us Genesis 1500 to 1401. If we chose, let's say, MacArthur Bible Handbook, the dates are going to shift a little bit, 1445 to 1405 BC. So that's really useful. And by the way, if you click on any of this data, you're going to see that familiar one-page summary. You can move these lines to see more data or less data if you need to zoom in. And you can, again, scroll up and down. And you can see everything's kind of changing a little bit. This can be very useful in understanding the events. Very, very useful. And then if you click the minus, that allows you to zoom out and see a little bit more. The next one is intertext. This is actually pretty cool visually, but let me explain what's going on. This is looking at books and how they talk to one another, or how they cite one another. So if we float our mouse over Romans, we can see that Romans is linked to these red, yellow, kind of green and blue, aquamarine maybe. And we can see that it's linking to Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, 1 Kings, Psalms, etc. This is really cool. So in a very quick way, you can see Paul knew his Old Testament. But one thing that's really wonderful is if you click on Romans, it will then run a concordance search, and it will give you all those verses from each book that Paul quotes from. And that is pretty handy. So I love that feature that's included with the Intertextual Books Explorer. Now, this is citations. This is not all of them. If we click on quotations, then it's going to change a little bit. So now we got to look for Romans, and now these are specific quotations. Then we have allusions. If we go to Romans, Romans alludes to these books. We can have echo, which is a very loose connection. There it is, Romans. And if we click all, now we can see everything. And that can be a little overwhelming. But nevertheless, you can see these intertextual connections. Pretty awesome. Now, stats goes much deeper than we saw before. Plus, you have a drop-down menu. So if you want to focus on some of the technical side of things like lemmas and roots, or how is a lemma only used once in a book, you would click that. And we could do it based on chapters. And so if we float our mouse on one of these circles, we can see that this is the book of Acts. It has 28 chapters. Lemmas used only in this book, 562. And that's about all this will do. So this is something that really is not something you're going to use every day. And the last one is list. This is probably the most helpful. This is taking that one-page summary and now making it available for you in a very easy-to-read stat page. Column title, author, key verse, any themes, etc. And there you go. And again, we can simplify this by saying, you know what, just give me the New Testament. All right, just give me the prison epistles. Now we can look at Paul's prison epistles and see them from a statistic standpoint. How are they similar in number of chapters, verses, words, etc.? So if you're really interested in that kind of background, those kind of specifics, this is a great tool for it. So think of the Bible Books Explorer as the stats that you would want to know about your particular books of the Bible. All right, let's go to the next one, and that's the Bible Outline Browser. I don't use this too often, but it can come in handy at times. This is going to give you outlines from your commentaries. It doesn't have all of them, but it has quite a few. In this case, I've got 141. Now, these outlines typically are very high level, as I'll demonstrate here. So we have the Apostolic Study Bible, 3 major divisions in this particular book for Genesis. And if we click and expand it, you'll see that it goes to a second tier. So we have that. If we click it again, that's it. So this one only has 2 tiers. So we can quickly get a good feel for the book of Genesis. Now, how do we change this? How do we change it to a different book of the Bible? Well, we can go in here and type in Romans. Click on Romans. And in a few minutes, it will go through all the commentaries. And now we can look at Romans commentary. And you can see the outlines are a little more thorough here. Notice we also have it here. And if we click and expand it, there's the outline here at the left. And it also expands it this way. And then we can see the text. So if you are wondering, and how do we use this for Bible study? Well, this is used before. If you're going to study a whole book of the Bible, then definitely review the outlines. That's where they're very helpful because they're giving you a kind of a big overview. Or if you're heading into a book for just referencing, and you're not familiar with it, looking at the outline can be very useful because it'll give you the big picture. And so that's where I find it very helpful. Notice, though, that besides reading the outline, we have a comparison. This can be pretty helpful, but it is pretty overwhelming. And you really want to do this only like one book at a time or one chapter at a time. So here's Romans chapter 1. And if we float our mouse, this is Acts through Corinthians. All right, Acts through 1 Corinthians. See how they're just labeling them a little bit differently. But now we can see the divisions. All right, so in this particular outline, Romans 1 is 1 through 32. If we go here, we can see it's broken down even further on its second tier. So this is kind of a 2-tier outline. Here's the major one, and then here's the sub-levels. Like I said, not very helpful, but just be aware that you can visualize some of these differences. All right, great. Let's move on to the next one, and that's Biblical People Visual Timelines. Now, unfortunately, Logos has not done this for everyone. If I click Overview, we've got Abraham, David, Jesus, and Moses, and Paul. I'm going to click on Abraham. So Logos gives us a visual of the major events in this person's life. Terah becomes the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran, and Ur. Now, if we click on it, you can see that down here we have the information. Now, if we go to the next one, Haran becomes the father of Lot. Notice it changes down here. Haran dies. Now, what happens later on some of these is as you start clicking through, if you see a Bible verse like this one does, Terah settles in Haran, more often than not, you're going to see that when you float your mouse over the description, it's a linkable. So let's click on Terah settles in Haran. And now the fact book opens up specifically to this, and it's now going to gather all the details about it, plus showing us some pictures. We got some media, we got a map, some idols, where we are in the world. We can open up the media tool, search for more. We can search for all media. We've got key passages. We can also have some references, events, sermons, and even digging deeper into the people, places, and so forth. So don't think of the background visual timeline as just one-dimensional. It's multi-dimensional because we can scroll through here. Now, what I'm going to do is left mouse click and hold my mouse down, and that's how I'm dragging this to the left and to the right. That's to move it by my mouse, but I also have the next and previous, and that will move me through this incrementally. And now I can see each object one at a time. Or we can grab the circle and really cruise through it. You got a lot there. I have found that the best way to move it is just left click and grab it and move it left and right. So the visual timeline is nice because